Okay guys, welcome to the first of our 19 bullet testing videos for jacketed subsonic 300 blackout bullet testing videos, to be more specific. The last video we kind of outlined what this series is going to be. We talked about all 19 of the bullets, we talked about the guns we're going to use, we talked about the powders we're going to use, we talked over all of the details. If you need that info, I'll put a link maybe somewhere, I don't know, on the screen. I think they're up in this corner these days. And I'll also have a link in the description to get you back. Well, we'll start a new playlist. So there will be a playlist that starts out with the introduction video, and then this will be the second edition, which today's subject is the 208 grain Hornady ELD match. Let's have a quick up close look at this guy. It's a pretty standard match bullet, you know, tipped match bullet. Got a boat tail there. Pretty standard fare. These bullets just came out like 6 months ago, something like that, and they are replacing the 208 grain AMAX, which is a nearly identical bullet. Tell you what, let's look at the let's look at this guy next to an AMAX so you can kind of see. Looking pretty similar. Tip color changed, right? We've got some of those AMAXs, and yeah, so here's some 208 grain AMAXs, and we've also got the 208 grain match. Let's look at all three of these guys side by side. There you go. You can see the match is just it's not a tipped bullet, it's a hollow point. I expect these three to perform very similar. Low data very similar. So the plan, this video is going to be the ELD match, and the other two videos, the videos for these other bullets, we're going to cover other powders. So I hope to cover all 6 of our test powders in these 208 grain Hornady offerings. So today's the ELD match. If I don't hit your powder, then you can just go check out those videos, should get you in the ballpark. Well, speaking of powders, today's powder, first of all, accurate 1680. By far, knowing what I know now at the beginning of this is the best 300 blackout subsonic powder. This is the one you want. We're going to test this guy. We're also going to test IMR 4227. And this one I expect to have some issues with. So we've got our 8.5 inch barrel with pistol gas. I expect it to run just fine with this. But we've got our 16-inch barrel with carbine gas, and I think we're going to have problems. Hopefully we'll only have problems when we're shooting unsuppressed. Once we put the suppressor on, hopefully it'll run. We are going to find out. And the first thing we need to find out, well, first of all, it's a tall order trying to work up loads for 2 guns and 2 powders with 100 bullets. Luckily, we've shot some of these 208 grain AMAXs on the channel. Got a reasonably good idea of where to start from. So hopefully we can squeeze it in. First things first, I want to kind of map out the velocity profile for each gun. So I've got 20 pieces of brass. If I don't drop one here, I've got 20 pieces of brass. So basically think of like, okay, this guy is for our 8.5, these 10 are for our 8.5 inch barrel, these 10 are for our 16-inch barrel. And I'm going to load up 2 shot groups, so 5 different powder charges, and we're going to go out, we're going to shoot them without the suppressor. We're going to be checking a couple different things. We're going to map the velocity, you know, as charge increases, we're going to map that velocity and see if we can figure out what's going on there. And we're also going to verify that the bullets are flying well, making nice round holes in the paper so that we don't end up with keyholing issues and baffle strikes in the suppressor and all of that bad crap. So let me kind of get set up here to start dumping powder, and we'll come back, we'll talk about the loads we're going to shoot. Alright, let's talk load data. This could be a complete disaster just because we're dealing with so few bullets, and I'm trying to accomplish a lot with the least number of bullets. I don't know, this is the first video. We'll see how it goes. As I mentioned, I've got 10 rounds for each gun. So let's look at this 10 and imagine those are for the 16-inch barrel. I'm going to have 5 shots with accurate 1680 and 5 shots with IMR 4227. I'm going to have 1 shot per load basically, and I want to cover a ton of ground. So for like accurate 1680, I want to go from, let's see, for the 16-inch barrel I want to go from 10 grains all the way up to 12 grains. So 10 half grain increments, 10, 10 and a half, 11, 11 and a half, and 12. Same gun with IMR 4227, it's going to be 8, 8 and a half, 9, 9 and a half, and 10. Try to put something up on the screen there. And accurate 1680, shorter, or I'm sorry, for the 8.5-inch barrel, we need hotter loads, right? We're losing velocity with the shorter barrel, so basically all of those loads are going to bump up a half grain, and that's going to be the 8.5-inch test loads. So I expect this to cover a lot of ground, and I'm not sure if 1 shot is going to be enough for us to get where we're going to need to be, but we're going to find out. So this is a brand new bullet. It hasn't made its way into any manuals, but as I mentioned, it's exactly the same as 208 grain AMAX, 208 grain the boat tail hollow point match, which we showed you. There's load data in the Hornady manual for those. The problem with a lot of 300 blackout load data is, if you look, this is a 16-inch 1-in-7 twist barrel out of a Smith & Wesson AR-15. So, and they're using Winchester small rifle primers. We are using CCI number 41 primers, which are a bit hotter than the Winchester small rifle, I believe. So the load data is not going to be exact, but it's going to get us in the ballpark. And looking at the ranges we chose, it's in the realm of what they talk about. One important thing I wanted to get out of the manual was the the cartridge overall length, or overall length. We're going to shoot 2.250, which is what they recommend. We're probably going to stick with 2.250 for a lot of the bullets, especially the tipped and the hollow point bullets. Until we get into the shorter ones, these long, heavy bullets are pretty much going to be 2.250. Because mag length is up, what, 2.26, 2.265, something like that. You start getting rubbing your magazine, so we want to stay short of that and make sure we have plenty of magazine clearance. I am going to start with accurate 1680. All of these charges will be hand weighed. I will be using my Jim Pro 250 scale to hand weigh them all, and I'll be testing the Jim Pro with a set of check weights. So like here's a 10 grain check weight, and it's right on the money. So these should be very nicely weighed charges. So I'm going to get started with that and see you guys here in just a second. Alright, that's our last accurate 1680 charge. So make sure to keep these straight, going left to right, lowest to heaviest. Row 1 goes into row 1, row 2 goes into row 3. So gotta keep track of stuff. Alright, 2.250 is our overall length target. I've got the bullet seating die set very long right now, so I expect this to be quite a bit long. 2.362. So it's 112 thousandths long. Let's go down 100. Okay, that should put us about 12 thousandths long. Eleven and a half. Go down another 10. Alright, we'll seat that guy, and then we'll seat the next one just to see what it comes out at. $2.2495. So that one is pretty much perfect. Let's see what our number was on the last, 2.251. A couple thousandths of wiggle room, no big deal. We're going to use the Lee Factory crimp die on these as well, which we set up in a previous video that was all about crimp. Applying a reasonably heavy crimp. Nothing crazy, nothing enough to really show marks, heavy marks on the brass or distort the bullet, but it's pretty heavy nonetheless. Alright, I'll seat the rest of these guys and then move on to our IMR 4227, and then we'll be ready to hit the range. Alright, just seating these last 5 shots, and I'll tell you, I'm starting to get nervous. I just don't know if 20 shots is going to be enough to map out the 2 powders and the 2 guns. You know, like this is it's a pretty tall task trying to do this many loads with 100 bullets, but whatever. We'll see. Shit. Wake up, stop talking to the camera, and reload. There we go. Luckily, it's a beautiful day outside. Going to be nice weather for shooting. Alright, let's get out there. Alright, we're going to start with the 16-inch gun. That's our first 2 rows here. And I'm not going to waste my time on a target camera. The groups don't matter, and to be honest, I'm actually going to try and keep these separate so they don't overlap, so we can get a good look at the bullet holes. So we'll check here for function, and then once we're done, we'll go down and look at the bullet holes together. I've decided, I think the best way to test each of these in a fair manner is just to load them one at a time in the magazine, and we'll use bolt lock back, you know, to judge function. So yeah, better than nothing. But what are you going to do when you only have 1 round of each load? Alright, so we got good bolt lock back with all the 1680s and none of the IMR 4227s. Let's have a look at the bullet holes. There they are. I shot them you know, straight across in a line. I'm not seeing anything to be concerned about. Actually look really good. Those are the IMR 4227s. And over here, these are the accurate 1680s. So it looks good to go. Alright, let's switch out guns and see what the 8.5 does. Alright, same tests with our 8.5-inch SBR. Alright, good bolt lock back with all the accurate 1680 loads. The 3 slowest 4227s didn't lock the bolt back on this guy either, but the fastest 2 did. Let's have a look at the bullet holes. Alright, once again, these are good looking bullet holes. The 5 on the left are the accurate 1680, and then over here are the IMR 4227 guys. No problems at all. Alright, let's get inside, chart this velocity, see if we can come up with some real loads to test. Okay, it is charts and graphs time here. Well, first of all, function was what I expected. Accurate 1680, ran both guns just fine. 4227, yeah. So the 16-inch barrel, nothing locked the bolt back. The 8.5-inch barrel, the 2 highest charges locked the bolt back. Now, there's a buffer there. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see it just because of, we're shooting one shot at a time, but there's a buffer there below where it starts locking the bolt back to where it functions fine except for locking the bolt back. And that's something I could probably live with unsuppressed. If it ran completely fine suppressed, but it didn't get the bolt locked back, whatever, unsuppressed, I could probably live with that. But, alright, we're okay. We've got some charts and graphs. Let's see if we can look at all 4 of them here at the same time. We'll zoom in on each one as we go, but they charted out pretty well. They charted out pretty darn well. Let's look at the first one we shot, which is accurate 1680 in the 16-inch barrel. That, the blue dots are the shots we fired, and the red X or cross there is where we crossed the 1,050 feet per second threshold. I don't know if I screwed this up. Like whether that 10.5 grain load, I accidentally loaded it as an 11. It was a little hotter. The 10.5 load and the 11 load were the same velocity, and they really shouldn't have been. Not a half grain difference. So I don't know if I screwed this up, but it's okay. We're still in the basic ballpark, kind of, for the most part. Whatever. So as we look at these charts, what I want to do is pick out 3 different loads to shoot. So from each charge I need to come up with 3 loads, and we're going to shoot 5-shot groups for each of those loads. This chart is telling us that 10.5, so between 10.5 and 10.6 is about where we should be. Let's call that 10.6. Tell you what, I better write this down while I'm talking about it. Alright, 10.6 is kind of going to be our medium load. Let's see, well, this is 16-inch barrel and accurate 1680. So, this may change between powders, but I think here with accurate 1680, I want to shoot 3/10 below that and 3/10 above it. So I think we'll do 10.3 grains, 10.6 grains, and 10.9 grains. If our chart isn't lying to us, that should put us at about 10.2, or I'm sorry, 10.3 is about 1,025 feet per second, 10.6 is 1050, and 10.9 is going to give us, around 1180, or I'm sorry, 1080, something like that. But I think because this chart got a little screwed up, we're actually going to be a little lower than we anticipate. So that's it. So 10.3, 10.6, and 10.9 are the loads we're going to move forward with for the 16-inch barrel. Alright, let's move on to IMR 4227 for the 16-inch barrel. This is a much more satisfying chart, right? That trend line crosses right by all 5 of our shots. So we got a very consistent velocity increase between our charges. 1,050 feet per second looks like it's between 9 and 9.1 grains. So let's go, let's see, 4227. So 9.1 grains will be our middle load. If we go up to 9, let's see, if we increase that by 3/10, if we go up to 9.4, that's putting us at almost 1,100. Tell you what, this, or no, it's not really. Yeah, okay, let's do 3/10. So let's do 9.4 and 8.8. 8.8 grains is going to put us, yeah, around 1025. So, okay, so there's our 4227 loads. We'll do 8.8 grains, 9.1 grains, and 9.4 grains. Moving along to our 8.5 inch barrel. Now this is a much better accurate 1680 chart. 1050 feet per second was right around 11.6 grains. And we go 11.3. That'll be, yep, so we're going to go 11.3, 11.6, and 11.9. So 11.9 will have us up around 1075 or just below that. So that's looking good as well. And let's see, 8.5 with the 4227. Chart doesn't look awful, but it's not one of the better ones, right? But let's see, 1050 is right about 9.7 grains. So we'll call 9.7 grains our middle load. 10 grains is one we shot before, and it was just over 1100 feet per second. That's a little bit hotter than we want to be. Yeah, screw it. We'll do 9.3. Alright, 9.3, 9.6, and 9.9 are going to be our loads. And that might be useful even for checking function. Like 9.3 is going to be light. I know it's going to be light. But it's kind of good to see if we go a little bit light, will it still function? Because I expect this to function the gun okay. But the 9.3 might be on the iffy side. So that'll be good to check. Alright, enough graphs and charts. I need to start slinging some brass around and dumping charges. This is going to be a long slog, right? This is 60 charges. I'm going to hand weigh them all. Not going to be a quick process, but I'm not going to subject you to all of it. Alright, I'll see you guys in a few. Alright, that's the final charge. Get these last 5 bullets seated, and we will be ready to go shooting. Absolutely nothing of interest has happened. It's all gone according to plan and as expected. So I'm to the point where I need to decide what distance to shoot these guys at. I'd like to shoot them at 100. I think I'm going to just go ahead and shoot them at 100. I was thinking about maybe pulling in the bullet testing, at least the first group testing, to maybe 75 or 50 yards in case, you know, if we run into really crappy bullets that aren't going to fly very well, it might be hard to keep track of them at 100, but whatever. Whatever. We'll go ahead and do 100 yards anyway. Alright, that's it. 60 rounds, 30 for the 16-inch gun, 30 for the 8.5-inch gun. So let's get out there, see how they shoot. Alright, it's time to see if these guys are going to shoot. We're going to start with the 8.5-inch barrel, the SBR. Shooting off the bipod, I was playing around trying to get the best rest possible. This thing's kind of hard to shoot off a bench. Getting a stable rest is a challenge, but this seems to be okay. Off the bipod and with a bag kind of inside of the of that MFT stock. So we'll see how it does. It is about 84 degrees out here, a little bit warm. We are shooting at 100 yards. And we're going to start with the accurate 1680 loads. That's the top row. Hopefully you can read all the crap I wrote on the target. But yeah, let's get started, see what happens. Wow. All right, let's talk over our 8.5 inch results real quick before we move on to the 16. Pretty happy overall here. Accurate 1680, we had 2.82 inch group, 2.12 inch group, 1.25 inch group. So, not bad. We were a little bit hot. Our lowest load ended up at 1,063 feet per second with a standard deviation of 12.2. So, a little bit hot. We'll look at updated charts here in just a minute that kind of show that we were, yeah, just a smidgen hot. The shocking part here, though, was IMR 4227. Really pleased that it ran the gun. Absolutely no problems at all with any of the loads. And we were pretty close on velocity. Our lowest velocity here, which was the best group of the lot here, 1,024 feet per second, and a 0.76 inch group. Very nice, very nice. And this guy had this one little dude down here that kind of screwed the group up, made it a 2-inch group, but it was trying to group there. And then the wheels kind of came off a little. These two up high kind of seemed like they went a little nuts. So, this might be a powder where, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to say that. Like, it's not like we're pushing it. Yeah. Overall, though, just like from looking from afar, the 4227 just shot better. And I'm kind of surprised about that. I don't know that I'm shocked, but I'm certainly surprised. I was afraid as we got into this, it would be, you know, all accurate 1680 all the time. It was going to shoot the best with just about every bullet and all that sort of crap. Well, right here, first bullet, first gun, accurate 1680 got its butt whipped by IMR 4227. Not drastic. Still happy with you know, what we're looking at up here, but yeah, really liking what's going on down here. So we need to pick a load to be our, you know, the load we came up with to move forward with. Let's look at the velocity charts. All right, here's the accurate 1680. Takes a minute to kind of see what's going on here, but got our 3 groups of 5, our 3 little clusters of 5. Had a bit of extreme spread today with 1680. It usually packs them right together and, you know, has very, very small standard deviation, but a little bit spread out today, but that's okay. And also, just across the board, it was hotter. You know, we were, oh, what is that? Probably 15 feet per second hotter than our earlier 5 loads that we shot without the suppressor. So I think there's 2 contributing factors. One, of course, is the suppressor, which I haven't had the suppressor long, so I'm still learning a lot about things like this. Like, you know, I've always heard you add a suppressor, you add velocity. Well, how much? I think maybe that's part of what we're seeing here. The other is we shot the first rounds in the morning and the 15 rounds in some pretty good heat, probably a 25-ish degree swing. So some temperature change there, as well as suppressor gain. Alright, so if we had it to do over and we were trying to hit 1050 feet per second, it's looking like 11.2 grains would get us there. So at 11.3 we were just a touch hot, but that's okay. But if I was writing down in my notebook a load to take forward for accurate 1680 with this, it would be, yeah, probably 11.2, and see how that went. Alright, let's move over to IMR 4227. And there they are. It doesn't seem to have had quite as much velocity shift upward. Maybe a little bit, but still the clusters are trending a little bit high, but our velocity was just fine. We were thinking that 9.6 was going to get us 1050, and yeah, it still would be the closest. Maybe 9.7 would be a little bit closer to 1050, but overall, that's what we're looking at with the 8.5 inch barrel. All right, so which load do we pick to go forward with? I think we go down here, and let's call this 9.6. I wish we had more bullets to play with, you know, see whether that flyer there was just a kind of a one-time thing, or whether this was going to group okay. You know, maybe we should go here, but that's 1,024 feet per second. I want that extra, you know, 10 feet per second or so that we're getting there. So, yeah. All right. 9.6 grains is of IMR 4227. That's going to be our 8.5 inch load. All right, let's get out there and shoot the 16 inch gun. Super. Super. Figured feed, and it is, yeah, it didn't get the next round out of the mag. Get in there. Empty chamber. Yep, feeding issues again.
Get out of there. Wow, that one actually seems to have fed.
What a freaking pain in the butt. That's what I'm talking about. That carbon leaf gas, IMR 4227 just didn't want to do it. Even suppressed. That was miserable. One shot at a time and you get a jam. So we wasted 15 bullets shooting IMR 4227 out of the 16-inch gun with carbon gas. Luckily, Accurate 1680 ran perfect. Ran like a sewing machine. We got some good looking groups. 2.29 inches, 1.23 inches, 0.86 inches. Very nice. Our velocity was a smidgen high. Our lowest load got us 1,055 feet per second. So, and it was, you know, a reasonably good group. Ish, you know, kinda. So, I don't know. Maybe I guess we could maybe pick that guy. It's a 1,087 feet per second. A little bit hot. Or maybe we could split the difference and say, you know, 10.5 or 10.4. But yeah, man, I'm feeling incredibly rambly. But yeah, okay. So that looking good. Let's look at updated velocity charts. There we go, Accurate 1680. So we can see, just like we saw with the 8.5 inch barrel, you know, we definitely got a velocity jump from our earlier test rounds. And just like before, you know, some of it might have been temperature and some of it might have been the addition of the suppressor. We'll have to watch that as we go along. Maybe we can start, you know, figuring out exactly how much to expect on that. But yeah, so it looks like our 1050 load, that 10.3 load that we shot, looks great. Right there it is. Had good standard deviation, 1,055 feet per second, and standard deviation of 12 feet per second. So our 5 little dots are grouped together there pretty closely. All right, let's look at the IMR 4227. There it is. Wow, look at that. Completely useless to us. We have no need. Stupid powder won't shoot. But that's okay. We expected it. We know that's coming. I think what I'm probably going to do, so like that pretty much probably retires IMR 4227 for the 16-inch gun. It's a waste of bullets to shoot any more IMR 4227 in a 16-inch carbine gas gun. So what I might end up needing to do with future bullet videos is, for the 8.5 inch barrel, we might shoot one of these faster powders. So, but the 16-inch barrel will stick to the slowers. So it might be 3 or 4 powders in the video shooting different powders for the 2 different guns. And that might be the best way to go, because we don't want to just continuously fail, beat our head against the wall, wasting bullets. So, yeah. Once we've proven our point that certain powders suck, we won't waste any more bullets on them, I guess is what I'm getting at. And I think this already puts IMR 4227 in that category for the 16-inch barrel. Overall, happy with the groups out of both guns. You know, this 1 to 2 inch shot a couple, sub 1 inch groups. That's outstanding shooting, brother. I had no idea what to expect out of 300 blackout subsonics. I wasn't sure what sort of accuracy we could even expect. So, if it ends up being 2 inches as kind of the average, that is perfect. That is just fine. You know, occasionally maybe we'll shoot a little group. I'm okay with that. I am A-okay with that. Happy with both guns. Happy with the bullet. We've got 20 left. Did we decide on a load for the 16-inch? Yeah, that was also the first group of the day. Maybe that was me. It's really the only one that had some horizontal stringing going on. So maybe I was still settling into my position. I don't know. I think we're going to call this our load. So for the 16-inch barrel, we'll circle it green. 10.3 grains of accurate 1680 and a 2.250 overall length is going to be our load. And 8.5-inch barrel, what did we say? I think we were going to take the 9.6 because its velocity looked better. So let's circle that dude. So there it is. That is our first bullet test video. It's much longer than I thought it was going to be. Whatever. I'm incapable of making a short video. That's just all there is to it. Too much crap to ramble about. But overall, I'm happy. I think we accomplished a lot with the least number of bullets possible. Alright, I need to do a quick addendum. So the footage for this video I shot several days ago, and just now getting to editing it and getting ready to upload it, and the intro video's been up a little bit for a day or so. Got some feedback. I always appreciate the comments and the feedback. Somebody brought up another bullet, and actually another bullet company called makerbullets.com. I don't know how in God's name I missed this manufacturer, or why I wasn't already aware of them, but they have got some seriously cool bullets. They've got a 200 grain expanding subsonic bullet, very similar to that Lehigh Defense we looked at in the intro video. I've got those on order. I ordered 100, so this has now become a 20 bullet series instead of 19. And it was everything I could do not to buy like 10 grand worth of bullets. They have got some really, really, really cool bullets, Maker does. So I'm hoping these 200 grainers are going to, live up to my expectations, and then I'm going to be spinning some jack, because like they've got a 77 grain 224 expanding subsonic 5.56. It's kind of dumb, but it's kind of cool. They've got some other, I don't know. I can just go through it. They've got a ton of bullets, and I can see later on some shootouts. Like you saw those Lehigh Defense bullets that I've already got from the previous video. There's an equivalent Maker for pretty much all of those. So we might have to do some shootouts in 5.56 and 6.5 Grendel and 308 and anything else we can dream up. Alright, so we're now a 20 bullet video. The other thing, I've had some time now, as at work, kind of daydreaming about how this first bullet test went, and it's hard not to be a little bit, I'm not disappointed, I don't know. I just need to reel in my expectations, I guess. It is a huge, and I've repeated this 15 times right here in this video you're already watching, but it's a lot to do trying to work up loads for 2 guns with 2 powders, so it's basically 4 loads and do it with 100 bullets. I'm biting off a lot, but I really want to cast a wide net. I want to gather up as much, you know, data as I can from one end of the spectrum to the other. So these are not going to be, all right, here, here was our 8.5 inch target. Is this the absolute best load that I could possibly come up with for a 208 grain Hornady ELD in my 8.5 inch? Probably not. But within the parameters of this series and the bullet count that we're looking to stay within, it's good enough. It is very much good enough. And the other thing, as I was editing and watching, you know, I was talking about dumping powders, or, you know, getting rid of powders for the 16 inch. I'm going to make sure to cover them all, though, because I know, you know, a lot of you guys have 16-inch pistol gas guns, and that velocity info from the 16-inch gun, you know, directly applies to you and can be important. So, yeah, I don't want to act like I'm just going to, you know, narrow the powders down on the 16-inch to just 1680 and reloader 7 or something. We're going to shoot some other stuff and play with stuff, and, you know, hopefully get a good velocity map you 16-inch guys can use. The other thing, for some reason I didn't mention, my barrels are 1 in 8 twist. So you got 1 in 7s out there, 1 in 8s. So I'll be interested to see, once we get up to the heavy stuff, the 220s, 225s, and like those 240 grain Sierra Match Kings, they may not fly out of my 1 in 8. I think they'll be okay, but it's possible they may not, but your 1 in 7 might shoot them lights out. You know, got to keep things like that in mind. So I think that's it. I just kind of wanted to add a little bit, you know, here at the end to make this video even longer. It's just absurd that I can't put together a short video, but whatever. I'm going to stop worrying about it. All right, I will see you guys next time. I don't know what bullet we're going to do next, so I don't know. It shouldn't be too long, but there's more bullets to come. See you guys next time.